just closed down on me unexpectedly. So I don't know where I left off, but I was on the phone with through concierge on the cruise, and the lady from the airline just informed me that they were just about to announce to the world that all of these flights out of the US were canceled, and that they would have to be flights from the US to Europe were canceled, and so they would have to be rerouted. And so I had just slipped in right before all of the chaos was about to ensue. And I managed to rebook the flight and get a flight that went through Toronto back to Europe. And all of that was just because I was trusting my heart. I had managed to kind of just sidestep all of the chaos. Obviously, we all experienced the craziness of the pandemic and all of the unexpecteds that the pandemic delivered as well. But in that vein, I was also able to sidestep some of that chaos. I don't really read the news, but I had noticed the headline, and it just kind of like gave me like a little nudge in my heart to say, "Oh, okay, I think I need to take care of this." And it just seemed like an easy thing to do, which was to inquire with the concierge, who said, "Yeah, you can call the airlines for free from the ship, no problem." And that's what I did. And so I think all of that is to say, and this is what really inspired me and Rhonda to address this topic today, um, is that sometimes we can really get caught up in the dialogue that's happening in our head. We do a lot of, not only judging of other people around us, but by the same token, we also judge ourselves in that process, and we also judge the moment in that process. And I think um, one of the things that the heart can do is that it can assess a moment in a true way without allowing, because that's not the function of the heart, without allowing the mind and fears and other types of stories to enter. So if you can kind of like take your thoughts of the moment and really just sort of say, like, how does my heart feel about this moment? How does my heart feel about what's going on in the news, or what I should do next given what's going on in the news? Sometimes you're going to find yourself directed to do something, or I don't even want to say directed, that's not a heartful word, urged to do something, or called to do something, or say something that you wouldn't logically think of doing, but that it just feels right to do in that moment. And so I think that's one of the things that we wanted to share with you today, was being able to trust your hearts more. I think that is something that I am looking to do a bit more of moving into 2023. I think that's a muscle that I would like to strengthen, not only to, keep pumping the blood through my body, but also to, guide me through some of the main decisions of my reality at this time. And and I think it's especially useful for me, and it's something that I am going to continue to do a bit more. Hey, I lost signal too, Cynthia. Thank you so much for joining us again. Um, Hopefully, this is the actual live. I sure hope so. I'm rambling on about trusting my heart more, and really trusting my heart more in helping me through some of the challenges that I think we're going to be faced with this year. And I think the challenges are going to be more universal, but also more perplexing specifically for the mind to process, and that we will be urged to consult our hearts a bit more about the best way forward. And that was an insight that um, I had, but probably thanks to just my conversation with Rhonda last week as well, which was based on, I think I had mentioned last week that I was feeling a little bit anxious, like I was being prepared for something, and I was kind of holding myself in a tense place last week, and that's not a good way to be. I mean, it's not a good state to be in for a long amount of or a sustained amount of time. It's one thing if you know that something's actually happening, but to be in that like ready to mobilize state without knowing what you're mobilizing for, probably not as useful. So, um, I realized then, because she was saying like, "Yeah, that seems kind of resistant, Cynthia, and that's not really you." And I was like, "I know, it's just like this weird thing though." I'm like, I'm girding my loins, and then at one point either she said or I said, I can't remember, but maybe I said like, I think I'm gonna have to like trust my heart more and just kind of like close that voice in my head, because that voice in my head doesn't know how to deal with this unknown situation that hasn't happened yet and that I'm in. So, Cynthia, you're saying trusting my heart has been life changing for me. It has brought me closer to the spirit in a way I did not know was possible. Absolutely. Actually, I think I think spirit resides there. So and I do think that it is the ticket. And I think that when people have those insights or I don't know if they notice it as much, especially when they've like just nearly avoided some cataclysmic something or other. But it's those moments where it's like, oh, before I, head under this bridge that's about to collapse, let me dash into this convenience store and grab some gum. Something that maybe you never really do, but you've decided to do. And I think that is really about being kind of out of your head and allowing yourself into the space of your heart. So for me, this is definitely the direction that I want to go in, and I think there will be some new events this year. Yeah, the voice in my head is quite hard to quiet. Yeah. Not just you, Cynthia. This Cynthia too, and I'm sure lots of other Cynthias and other people with their own names. Um, the voices in our heads. Actually, I'm so glad you brought this up because I was inspired to reread a book that I read a long time ago. Um, and I actually have it here with me today. And you are probably familiar with this guy. He wrote The Power of Now, and then this is the book that came after it. And in this book, I actually feel like this is one of those instances where the second book, or let's say the sequel, not that it's a series, but that this second book is an enriching and a much deeper uh, reading and understanding experience of the human mind, the ego, and the tricks that the ego plays on us individually as well as a collective, because we're all dealing with the ego and getting caught up in here in this little jungle gym that's happening up here, and moving less into this heart space. And so I think that's one of the things that he does get to towards the end of the book, which I've only just started. I'm around page, Actually, I'm a little bit past page 60 something. I'm around up page 100 or so. And in this book, I think that's kind of where he concludes, is that like as individuals, we all have to really, really work towards silencing the insanity of that monkey mind and entering into that heart space. And then if we can do that individually, that it will have a ripple effect, that also as a collective, we will all be more, let's say, heart-led individuals serving the collective good, and not being sort of like the individual monkey minds leading the collective insanity of, uh, that can't really solve the fears and the troubles of cataclysms and things that I think we're going to be challenged to deal with on a much more heart-led level in the near to more distant future. Ah, Cynthia, true words. That voice in our heads have ruled for so long, it does not want to give up. No, it does not. I'll have to get that book. Thank you for introducing it to me. It is a great book. It is a really, really great book. And actually, I can't believe it's been nearly 15 years since I read it the first time. And you can see it still has the Oprah's book club sticker on it. Um, you know, I like hard books, but probably if I got it this time around, it would have been as an ebook. But it's good reading. Yeah, so definitely recommend it. He does not speak explicitly about trusting our hearts, but ultimately, I think that is, he does talk a lot more about ego, how we see ego on display in the day to day, and then obviously where we can find glimpses of let's call it heart or spirit, um, manifest in our on our earth. And some of the places that he talks about are, in the beauty of a flower, or in the clarity of a crystal, um, or even, yeah, even just sort of like in the space of the sky, and the infiniteness, even in the richness of that color when you look at the sky. So there are a lot of poetic things that I really enjoy reading in the book as well. And I really love the way he opens up the book with his evocation. So if you've already read The Power of Now and you want something that kind of like gives a deeper perspective on, um, I think that what he's talking about is the next steps in our spiritual journey as a collective humanity, and he doesn't speak for any specific religion at all. He's really kind of speaking more about our all of our transformation as a human race. Um, then this is the book to read. It's I found it, and I'm finding it really inspirational to read again. Ah, yes. I like books because you never know when or how long you may be without power. Well, that too. That too. And it seems that like the latest smartphones seem to run out of juice pretty quickly. I'm always charging them. But yeah, books are great. Books are really great. And I find that I actually retain the information when I see it on a page, and I have a much more, I don't know, a much more like physical. experience reading it and seeing it in the page and just, I don't know, feeling like the difference in weight or thickness between the pages than I do when I read on my e-reader. So, yeah. I actually don't listen to Eckhart Tolle that much, but he does have a very soothing voice, and he actually has a really sweet accent. I really like the way he speaks English. He speaks at a very nice pace, slowly, I think, and it helps for people who speak all languages, not just English, to understand him better. Um, yeah. So he's good people. But I guess, maybe I brought that book up just because, I was sort of drawn to perusing the book. I kind of went to my bookshelf and just pulled it off the shelf like, "Oh, let me read this again." And I'm really glad that I did. And it was probably one of those things that my heart urged me to do. I am 70 and see and appreciate the experience of the old ways and new technology. I do too, and I'm so glad that you mentioned that. Actually, I have been talking to some more senior people, and I'm finding there are two kinds of aging people. There are people who are very excited about the things that are happening um, with technology, and there are some people who see technology as the harbinger of all things that are going wrong with the world. And it's a shame in a way to see that resistance happening because that is not the way forward, and I'm afraid that it will certainly make, let's say, the rest of their lives more difficult. And it doesn't sort of help as far as like closing out their final chapters with a happy ending. So I'm really glad to hear that you have that open-minded attitude. And on that topic, and before we close, I was very excited to see that Bing, the search engine Bing and ChatGPT are kind of partnering up so that search will be even more intuitive and more like a conversation with your computer rather than sort of like this Boolean, you know, weather in Beijing minus, suburban areas, right? So I'm kind of excited to see what artificial intelligence is going to bring. Also, probably to our let's say transformation and growth as humanity as well. So that is me very excited about technology and the awakening process. I think so too, and I think that there's going to be a coming together of those things. Some people have mentioned like they're a bit concerned about artificial intelligence and how it might interfere with, I think, our awakening process. And I'm not seeing it that way. I don't know, but like maybe my mind's doing crazy things, but my heart's pretty much okay with it. So I'm just if my mind is doing crazy things, it's really in the background somewhere. But I'm kind of excited about maybe some of the things that it can facilitate in the awakening process. And certainly, I think even just to this point, the advances in technology have really helped sort of spread the word about, the possibilities before humanity. So I'm excited, and I'm glad to see that my name twin, Cynthia, is also excited. So I think I have blathered on on my own enough for today. So I'm going to wish you, in the words of Cynthia, a beautiful day. filled with joy and love. Namaste. Trust your hearts this week. Just go ahead and play and trust your heart for a week, and then let us know next week how that worked out for you. And with that, I will bid you adieu. Thank you.